Hello, I'm Pam Tenyus. Welcome to Volusia Magazine. On our program today, Holly Smith will show us what's new at the historic Jackie Robinson Ballpark in Daytona Beach.
Minor League Baseball will kick off in just about a week or so in Daytona Beach. The fans and the teams who use this facility will notice some big changes this time around. I'll take you out to the ballpark, Jackie Robinson Ballpark that is, coming up in just a few minutes.
We'll take a tour of one of Volusia County's many eco assets, the Ormond Beach Memorial Art Gallery and Gardens. And Dave Byron will be interviewing Volusia County's groundwater manager, Tom Carey. We'll learn about rainfall, or the lack of it, and watering restrictions. We'll have some tips on how you can help. We'll get to these stories in just a few minutes. In other news, hundreds of litter-conscious volunteers turned out last weekend to help clean up the St. Johns River and its tributaries. It's an annual event involving 15 counties that border the waterway. Volunteers came by land and sea, or river in this case. From senior citizens to college students to young children, the collectors were as diverse as their haul. With trash bags in hand, they loaded up old tires, wooden pallets, and a rusty folding chair. Like those fishing from the banks, the volunteers netted mounds of trash. Bags upon bags were unloaded at Edstone Park in DeLand, just one of the drop-off locations. After a long, hard morning, though, volunteers were treated to a celebration at Lake Monroe Park in DeBary, including food and bluegrass music. There also were environmental and wildlife displays. Now, while this event only occurs one day a year, organizers say it has had quite an impact. In its 4-year history, more than 1.5 million pounds of trash have been pulled from the water. The cleanup was sponsored by Volusia County Environmental Management Services, the St. Johns Water Management District, and Keep Florida Beautiful. A similar event will be held next month on the east side of the county. The Halifax and Indian River cleanup will be held on April 22nd. For more information, please contact Environmental Management Services at area code 904-736-5927. Here's a statistic that no one wants to brag about. Volusia County is among the top 10 counties in Florida with the highest number of deaths related to designer drugs. Designer drugs are popular with young people at all-night parties commonly known as raves. According to statistics released by the state's Office of Drug Control, there were 251 fatalities in Florida from 1997 to 1999 from designer drugs. Most of those deaths were young people, and 11 were here in Volusia County. As a result, the state is pumping $9 million into a program to reduce substance abuse among young people. The DeLand-based House Next Door is among 22 agencies across Florida to qualify for $300,000 over 3 years to fight drug abuse. We spoke with Ann Rogers-Fox, Executive Director of the House Next Door.
We're really thrilled about the opportunity from the Florida Youth Initiative out of Tallahassee. We were competitive and were able to bring this grant for functional family therapy to our community. And this particular project will incorporate all the research that shows how best to work with families. We're going to engage the whole family. We've already even had the good fortune of having the training done, and we've taken our first 2 families into the program.
The House Next Door approaches individual problems by treating the entire family. Often it's the family's dynamic which leads to problems such as substance abuse.
We were fortunate that our own community had already done a study and had identified some of the risk factors through the One Voice for Volusia, which identified family management and rebellious youth and antisocial behavior on the part of youth as our primary risk factors in this community. And then along with that, this program specifically addresses that. And yes, the House Next Door had to satisfy the grantor that we did have a history of prevention and we did know what we were doing, and we could successfully bring this program into action in our community here.
Daytona Beach International Airport. Our flights provide access to the world.
Players run the bases, construction crews are finishing up a restoration project at historic Jackie Robinson Ballpark. Built in 1912, this facility, owned by the city of Daytona Beach, is listed on the Register of National Historic Places. The metal grandstands are the target of the first phase of renovation. Suzanne Kewen, the city's Economic Development Administrator, explains.
We could not remove the structure, and it was totally rebuilt on site. It was sandblasted, the lead paint removed, new foundation put in, new sections welded on to the deteriorated one. The whole structure is now designed for handicap accessibility, new seats, new roof, new press box. But it was all built on the skeleton that was there.
Kewen says the new seats are reminiscent of those found in old-time ballparks, but these chair backs also keep the comfort of the fans in mind. Now the press will be getting some new digs too, in the form of a brand new press box high up behind home plate. Now the old box and other parts of the facility were damaged last fall by the hurricanes that brushed the county, but Kewen says Mother Nature was actually a help to this project.
It just happened that the storms came along, so we were able to use the FEMA funds and insurance funds combined with the state dollars and get this project up and going in time for opening day.
Once this crew puts the finishing touches on the grandstands, they'll get a break before phase 2 of the project swings into action.
The plans we have, and basically endorsed by the City Commission through a master lease, is to work with the developer to totally redo this section of the park that we're standing in right now and build a Jackie Robinson Museum, Florida State League offices, new facilities for the teams, and really a state-of-the-art facility that would be in the neighborhood of $12 million.
The ballpark is truly a community facility. The fans who turn out for games here are taking the construction in stride to support their local team.
You can see the Bethune-Cookman Wildcats are out there today. Many of our local colleges play here, Stetson, Embry-Riddle, and we have a number of competitions, the baseball jamboree that brings in teams from around the country to play for spring training.
Fans entering the park pass Robinson's statue near the front gate, but I wondered how many know of the facility's historical background. It's a pretty safe bet that most people know who Jackie Robinson was, but the question is, do they know why the park's named after him? Do you know what the name of the park is?
Jackie Robinson Field.
Do you know why it's called Jackie Robinson?
Because he changed the whole face of baseball.
Do you know the name of the park?
No.
It's called Jackie Robinson Ballpark. Have you ever heard of him?
Yeah,
Do you know why they named the park after him?
because he used to come here in spring train.
Good answer, but even more. Try again.
He was famous.
Do you know the name of this ballpark?
Jackie Robinson Stadium.
Pretty good. Do you know why it's called that?
Named after Jackie Robinson, I guess. You know, it's just, he's one of the pioneers of baseball, and why not have it be named after him?
Okay, those answers came from visitors. Now let's hear what the locals had to say. Do you know the name of this ballpark?
Jackie Robinson Ballpark.
Do you know why it's called that?
It's named after Jackie Robinson.
But why this park out of all of them?
It's the first park that he played in. So he was the first black man that played in the Major League Baseball park.
Do you know the name of the ballpark you're sitting in?
Yes, I do.
What is it?
Jackie Robinson Ballpark.
And do you know why it's called that?
Yes, in 1946, Robinson played his first game below the Mason-Dixon line here in Daytona, and he was it was the Montreal farm team that he was playing with at the time, and they were refused permission to play in other cities throughout the area.
And with those answers, those gentlemen were sent to the head of the class. Now, people worldwide are familiar with Robinson's contribution to the sport. They're also familiar with the role this ballpark played in breaking the color barrier over 50 years ago. Kewen says the city is looking to call attention to these facts at the grand opening ceremony.
We feel that this is really a national, not only a local historic event, but a national, international event. When we were soliciting support for this, we had letters of support from Desmond Tutu and all of the baseball teams, Bud Selig, everyone, Muhammad Ali, Bill Cosby. So they'll all get an invitation for the ribbon cutting, and we have asked the Vice President to join us as well.
The Daytona Cubs will open their season April 7th. The grand opening may take place after the season opener, depending on construction progress. The players for the Cubs are hoping to make it to the Baseball Hall of Fame just like Robinson, and for them, being a Cubby is part of their journey.
Minor league baseball is professional baseball. If you can imagine professional baseball as a ladder with 7 rungs, the major leagues being the top rung on the ladder, rookie ball being the lowest rung on the ladder, we're the 4th rung up on the ladder. We are called Class A Advanced. The players are generally between 21 and 22 or 23 years old. They're out of school for 2 years, 3 years at the most, and they're trying to work their way up to the major leagues.
If you'd like information on the Cubbies' home game schedule at the renovated ballpark, check out the calendar of events on the county's website at www.volusia.org or call the ballpark at area code 904-257-3172. For Volusia Magazine, I'm Holly Smith.
Museum and Gardens is the home of many beautiful trees, flowers, and other scenic pleasures. There are trails to explore with benches along the way to relax in the shade. Not only is this a visual paradise, but also a preserve for many birds, turtles, and other living creatures that reside here. The beauty of this site has become very popular for occasions including weddings, portraits, and other family gatherings. You will find an elegance of nature that you may not expect to see so close to home. Once you've experienced this outdoor pleasure, the stone trails will lead you to a brand new gallery of art you won't want to miss. This museum is a revolving exhibit. The one you see here is called People, Places, and Things. The Orman Memorial Art Museum and Garden also offers classes for children and adults. Stop in to find out the current schedule at 78 East Granada Boulevard in Ormond Beach. The Orman Memorial Art Museum and Gardens.
Dave Byron is ready with his interview concerning dry conditions here in Volusia County. Isolated showers haven't done much to help restore our underground aquifer, and test wells show declining levels, and water conservation is important for all of us. We'll learn more about the situation as we join Volusia County Community Information Director Dave Byron and his guest Tom Carey.
There is growing concern about the county's underground water supply as our area continues to experience much drier than normal conditions. The amount of rainfall in the last 12 months is below normal, and the long-range forecast calls for above-average temperatures and below-average rainfall. All this adds up to is the need for Volusia residents to conserve water. With us today for the latest on the water situation is Tom Carey, the Groundwater Resources Manager for the county's Environmental Management Services Group. Tom, thanks for being with us today.
Thanks, Dave. It's nice to be here.
Hey, it's nice to have you, Tom. We typically have you on the program this time of year. This is the driest part of the year in Volusia County, and darn it all, every year we seem to be talking about falling well levels and so forth in Volusia County and concerns about the groundwater supply. Hey, before we talk about, the level of the underground water supply and the health of all of that, let's give people a little bit of description about the underground water supply in Volusia County and why rainfall is so important.
Well, Volusia County is unique among the 67 counties in the state. We're really a groundwater island. You have the St. Johns River on the west side of the county. That blocks any groundwater from coming from any of the western counties. You have the Atlantic Ocean on the east side, and there's fault lines on the north and south that separate us from other counties. So all of our replenishment to our groundwater comes in the form of recharge through rainfall. And that's why rainfall is so important to our aquifer.
And overall, I've heard it said, Tom, that this island unto itself, or basically our own virtual bathtub underneath the soil, is a good thing. I guess we don't have to depend on anyone else.
Oh yeah, it's a good thing if we take care of it. Yeah. And that's our job in the Environmental Management Service Center. And, you know, we can either protect our groundwater and preserve it for future generations, or we can mess up our nest and, you know, be regretting it for the next few generations.
And if we mess that up, we've messed up big time. No question about it.
You know, when it comes to groundwater, the saying, an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure, is absolutely true. It's harder to clean up groundwater by far than it is to protect it from being polluted.
Good point, Tom. Yeah. Well, all right, let's get right to the heart of the matter. You know, here we are at the time that we're taping this. It's about the middle of March. We'll probably air this toward the later end of March.
Right.
Where are we in terms of the health of the underground water supply right now, Tom?
Well, it's not as bad as I expected, given the climatological situation that we've been in over the winter. We've had an extremely dry winter.
Yeah.
And we continue to have that even in the month of March here. And right now we've got 52 monitoring wells out there. 16 of them are below baseline. And we've seen worse than that. Certainly we want to see better. The problem that we're having with Dave is that the predictions for the future. April is our driest month of the year. May, it's hot, and it's also a dry month. And they're predicting a drier than normal spring. So things aren't going to get better. They're going to start getting worse, and that's a concern.
Well, you know, things in Florida are very cyclical, Tom, and it seems like in the last couple, 3 years or whatever, we have been in the dry side of that cycle. You know, first it was La Nina, now I guess it's El Nino or...
Just the opposite.
Okay, yeah. Get us straight on it.
Okay, it was El Nino a couple of years ago where we got the floods and a lot of rain and everything. Now we're in a La Nina cycle, which is a drier cycle. And it not only affects us here in Florida, but the entire Southeast and even the entire nation. So we're kind of in this for the long haul on a more of a global type of situation, not just an isolated, you know, local situation.
Yeah, you know, it does seem that the weather is really funky all over the world. I mean, you know, you read about, you know, up in the Northeast where, you know, you've got these outrageously high temperatures, 60, right. 70 in December and January, which is totally unheard of. It just seems like the weather's totally messed up these days.
Right, that's La Nina.
And, you know, so as you say, the prediction is for, you know, continued drought in Volusia County. Let's roll it back a little bit to the past. I mean, we've been in a cycle, what, over a year, maybe 2 years, where we're below normal rainfall.
Yeah, last year was a below normal rainfall area. Probably the last good rainfall we got was after the wildfires.
Yeah.
And we really got a lot of rainfall, and it's a good thing.
Kind of went back up a little bit.
It kind of went back up, and now we're, you know, back in a down cycle. So we're hoping that it's going to cycle back up to the wet again, and we're looking for that maybe mid-May, June, you know, when a normal rainy season were to kick back.
Well, we're off, what, 4 or 5 inches of rain right now?
Yeah, we're about 5 inches below normal, given the last 12 months. And that's actually manageable. We can do that. Once again, Dave, it's the future, the next couple of months that really concern me.
Well, and you've made the point quite frequently, Tom, that, okay, so 4 or 5 inches doesn't sound like a lot, but I guess you have to take into consideration that it's 4 or 5 inches throughout Volusia County, and that's a lot of deficit when you look at it from that perspective.
Right. When you talk about an inch of water over Volusia County, 1,200 square miles, you're talking billions of gallons of water. That's a lot of water. And when you take 5 inches, that's, you know, just multiplied. So.
Well, Tom, you know, one of the things that, you know, you mentioned earlier that is probably worth noting, again, we're talking about this because we want to provide education to the public. We want the public to be sensitive and concerned, but this is not a critical situation. Let's look back, let's say, in 1998 at the May-June period when we had those terrible wildfires. From a drought index point of view and from a water table point of view, we were in a lot worse shape at that point than we are now.
We were in a lot worse shape then. You're right, it's serious, it's not critical. What we have to do at this point is to conserve water. I know the fire department wants us to be concerned about outdoor fires and activities like that. You know, we can make it through as long as we, you know, do everything that we can, and then hopefully, you know, it'll start raining.
Well, as we speak, the drought index in Volusia County is what? Just average it off, maybe 475, something on that?
It's about 468.
Yeah, in that range. And of course, for those people that are not familiar with the drought index, it's 0 is the wettest, and 800 is the driest, I believe. And so we're well beyond the halfway point.
We're beyond the halfway point, and 2 weeks ago, when I made a presentation to the council, it was at 408. So we've increased 60 points in just 2 weeks. So I know that's got to be a concern, you know, for the fire.
Yeah, no question about it, because, you know, the fire danger is going up, and each day that we go without rainfall, it does affect the deficit level of the underground water supply.
Exactly.
Hey, Tom, what's the worst it's ever been? What do you recall? How far has the table been down?
As far as the water table?
We had about 20, I think about 26 wells that were below their baseline, so that's over half there.
Right.
Back in 98, in the wildfires of 98.
So that was the worst period.
Yes.
And you know, I guess for the sake of educating the public, each month you and the Water Management District, the county and the Water Management District, test some 52 wells strategically located throughout Volusia County. Tell us how you do that.
Well, we go around at the end of each month, and that kind of corresponds with the rainfall totals that we get for the month, so we can kind of compare those. But we physically go to each well. We've got them from Ormond to DeBerry, from Seville down to Oak Hill, and everywhere in between. We've got the best coverage in the 19-county St. Johns River Water Management District. And we take the water levels, and we put that together in a report. We study it, we put that out and mail it out, and report to council when needed. And that gives us our best idea of keeping our pulse on or keeping the pulse of the aquifer, how healthy it is.
The fact that you do it every month and have done it every month for a long, long time, I guess you have a lot of historical data, and I guess by doing it every month, I mean, you're probably feeling pretty good about the reliability of the test itself. They probably give you a pretty true picture of where we are.
Absolutely. We think we've got it whittled down to a pretty good science, taking two things into consideration. One, the wells, which there's 52 of, and two, the rainfall totals, which we've got a lot of records on, over 100 years of records on. When you take those two factors and you combine them into a matrix that we've made up, it tells us what level of water conservation we should be at.
All right, well, let's talk about the baseline levels. You mentioned what, at the worst point you'd ever seen it, we had over half the wells that
over half of them
that were below baseline level.
Right.
Where are we right now?
Right now we have 16 below
That's
baseline.
a lot, though.
That is a lot, but I'll tell you why I'm pleased, Dave. Last month we had 15.
Okay.
And we just gained one, and we got 1 inch out of 3 inches of rain that we were supposed to get in February. So I was actually pleased with that. Like I said, what concerns me is the weather's getting warmer. People are going to start irrigating more. The rain is not coming. Those two things are going to work against one another to bring the levels lower in the aquifer.
Yeah, that's what I wanted to touch on, and I guess one of the reasons why we typically, have this conversation at this time of year, because this is the time of year where people crank on the sprinklers. They're desirous of getting their lawns back in shape, the shrubs back in shape, and this is the time when we don't have any rainfall. So conservation is a real big point in this right now, I would think, Tom.
It is key, and right now we're under a level 2 water conservation level, and you're allowed to water 2 times a week. And the funny thing about it, Dave, we're talking about that matrix. That matrix now shows that we could move to a level 3.
Interesting.
And it showed the same thing last month. So we're going to be bringing that to the Volusian Water Alliance Technical Committee and possibly the board, and we may possibly bring it to the council to see if we might want to move up. A lot of factors to be considered there, but that does show that we could go to 3.
Now let's be specific on this, Tom, because this is really important. Whether you live in Daytona Beach or unincorporated Volusia County, whether you have a municipal water supply or you're hooked up to a private water supply, or whether you're tapped into a lake or whatever, the water restrictions apply.
That is exactly correct.
I mean, and that basically is the odd-even days. You can water a couple of days a week, depending on whether your house has an odd or even address.
That's right, yes. Even addresses can water on Thursdays and Sundays, odd addresses on Wednesdays and Saturdays. And you're right about the source. You know, a lot of people think, hey, I've got a private well or I'm watering out of this pond. They're still under the same water restrictions.
Well, the straw goes into the same bowl.
And that's why we have it, countywide to countywide.
And so what you're saying is that the level of water conservation, the strictness of the water conservation measures that are currently in place are really based on the condition of the underground water supply at any given point.
Yes, and that's why we monitor it every month. We want to keep our information current.
So the next step would be, if things don't improve fairly, a lot, that the next step could be to take 1 day away, or take 1 watering day away.
That is correct. Level 3 would take 1 watering day away, and I believe it's the weekday, so you would have 1 weekend day to water per week. But I hope we don't get there.
I was going to say, it is still premature to be talking about that, but it's certainly not premature for everyone to be talking about the seriousness of the situation and the fact that one of the keys may be the level of residential cooperation. In other words, if our citizens out there cooperate, understand, we could get through this thing okay.
That's what we want.
What can people do around their homes, Tom?
Well, conserve water both inside and outside the home. Outside, if you're going to be watering, go by the watering hours, be as conservative as possible. Inside the home, just common sense items. When you're brushing your teeth, turn the water off. you know, in between brushing. And when you're doing the dishes, have a full load of in the dishwasher before you turn that on. Same thing with the laundry. Wait till you have a full load before running that. Keep a cold bottle of water in your refrigerator so you don't have to run the tap for a long time in order to get cold water to come out. So just a few common sense.
And that rain sensor or gauge that you can put on if you do have a sprinkler system so that it doesn't run. If it does rain, the sprinkler system is not running when it's raining outside.
That's right. There's nothing that aggravates a water conservationist more is to be riding around when it's raining or just after a rain and see an automatic sprinkler system just going out there and putting more water on the grass. That's a waste of water. So.
What are you doing about enforcement, Tom? I mean, there are people who, for whatever reason, don't get the message. They kind of like to thumb their nose at the restrictions. What do you do in those cases?
Well, typically we'll take in a complaint or see it ourselves, and we'll send them a note. In the mail and advise them of the water restrictions. We have a little pamphlet that explains the water restrictions very clearly, and we're
trying to give them a guilty conscience. Huh?
Well, we're basically in an educational mode.
That's right, yeah.
And we just want everybody to voluntarily comply. Some people have not. We've even brought some people to the code board. So we're very serious about this. If you don't comply, you know, there will be enforcement action taken.
And it is a law. I mean, conservation is a law.
It's ordained by the county council. It's a law.
Tom, if people want to get more information, or if they want maybe you to make a presentation to their group or whatever, tell us how we can get more information about the water conservation measures and how people can contact you.
Well, they can contact us at the Thomas C. Kelly Administration Building. I'm on the website. We have our website, volusia.org, under Environmental Management. They can call 736-5927 and get me, and be delighted to help them out.
And I know the Daytona Beach News-Journal weather page, every day, the weather page in the News-Journal has the hotline numbers that people can call to get the current water restrictions that are in place at any given time.
Yeah, they've been very gracious to supply that every day.
Well, Tom, let's just certainly hope that we get what we really need, which is some good rainfall in the next few weeks, and maybe the situation won't get any worse. But the key to it, as you've said, is water conservation. Tom, I want to thank you for being with us today.
Oh, it's been my pleasure.
I guess it's been Tom Carey, the Groundwater Resources Manager for Volusia County Government.
And that brings to a close another issue of Volusia Magazine. If you have any questions regarding our program, please give us a call at one of the numbers you see on your screen. And don't forget to listen to Volusia Today, Volusia County Government's public information radio program. Volusia Today airs every Tuesday morning and Sunday morning on the local radio stations you see listed here. For Volusia Magazine, I'm Pam Tenyus. Have a good evening.